Star Wars Unlimited Set 5, Legend of the Force, brings us a leader that has a style that is very interesting. Not everybody is choosing to play this leader in this way, but today I'm going to go over 2 decks in 2 different pairings for Kylo Ren We're Not Done Yet that actually build upon the idea of setting up your flip turn to allow Kylo to exist as a major menace on the board and swing in either for game or very close to game with these 2 pairings. I will be bringing one of these decks with me to the Galactic Championship. You get to figure out which one it is. Not playing in the main event, doing side events, but if you see me in Premier Pods, you might be playing against this deck if you get paired up against me. So, HARK, we are here. It is time for yet another Star Wars Unlimited deck build. 2 decks, blue, yellow, blue, green. We get to see what these different things are capable of and kind of set you all up with a way to showcase some interesting stuff to play Kylo Ren in Star Wars Unlimited Set 5, Legend of the Force. So without any further ado, let's get cracking. Our first deck we're going to be taking a look at with Kylo Ren is going to be Kylo Ren Yellow. We are on Petronaki Arena here because it does allow our 7 flip or 8 flip, depending on the situation, to become a 6/5 instead of a 5/5 with that Sentinel. 26 health is not that big of a deal because the new common force bases are specifically forcing people to go down to 28 health. So a 2 health difference is much different than a 4 health difference. And also people using 25 health bases, you're still 1 point above. Depending on what you want, you could choose to use a regular yellow base. Doesn't really matter. This, I think, just gives you a little bit more of that push to be able to finish once you flip your Kylo Ren into leader form. Taking a look at the deck, we'll go over some combos in a minute. We have one a fine addition to allow us to pull a lightsaber from our own discard pile, or if one of our opponents has a spicy lightsaber, we can use that on theirs. 3 copies of Greedo, 3 copies of Snapshot Reflexes, 3 Bazine Natel, 3 Dr. Pershing, 3 Kylo Ren, 3 Pike Sentinel, 3 Corrupted Sabers, 1 Darth Revan's lightsaber, 1 Kylo Ren's lightsaber, 3 Supremacy TIE Special Forces, 3 Power of the Dark Side, 3 Constructed Lightsaber, 3 Lieutenant Childson, 3 Graceful Purrgil, 3 No Glory Only Results, 3 Marchion Row, 2 Evacuate, and 3 Supreme Leader Snokes. We are a little top-end heavy. Hopefully our Sentinels like Pike Sentinel and Supremacy TIE Fighter can allow us to survive long enough to be able to get to that end of the game situation. We do have Power of the Dark Side and No Glory as big removal pieces. We're not using Waylay because bouncing stuff back to hand isn't that big of an issue in this game format, especially when some of the things that are coming down are mainly being played for their when playeds as opposed to their when defeateds or being able to get those attacks in. Pershing gives us our card draw. Childson is kind of sketchy here because there are not as many vigilance things that are available to you to reveal, but if you can get 2 or 3 in your hand to be able to reveal to give Childson that 4/4 or 5/5 body on 4, it should be good enough to get you by. Kylo Ren is an interesting tech piece here because you do have his lightsaber. You can throw the Revan's lightsabers on him. You can throw the Corrupted Saber on him. You can even throw the Constructed Lightsaber on him to get some extra benefit and value. You're not going to be able to do the card draw because you don't have access to the Force, but we're not using him for that. We're using him for the 2/3 body that can get some early damage in for when you do get your flip turn, you can end the game at that point. Marchion Row, specifically here, only combos with 1 specific card in our deck, and that is the Constructed Lightsaber, but is the basis for our significant flip turn win condition that we're hoping to get with this deck. So the game plan is at its max value. On 7, with all your resources open, you're flipping Kylo Ren into your 5/5 Sentinel, which then allows you to play multiple cards from your discard pile onto the Kylo Ren paying their costs. So 7 total cost gives us 2 Constructed Lightsabers and a Snapshot Reflexes, which will put your Kylo Ren at a base power level of 10, 12, I believe is the correct number there. And then on attack, you'll get an additional 4 power for the raid 4 from the 2 different lightsabers. And because these are not unique, you can stack them, bringing you up to 14 damage onto your opponent's base with that single attack. However, if you are able to successfully get the full combo going, throwing Marchion Row on the board beforehand in your turn before the flip is going to give you a full power attack of 18 power in 1 swing that your opponent cannot stop if you have the initiative because they've already missed their opportunity to remove Marchion Row from the board. And you have the first action, and that Snapshot Reflexes gives you the ability to attack. So in order, you have to play the 2 Constructed Lightsabers first, and then the Snapshot Reflexes as your last upgrade in this combo. And that'll throw 18, 19 damage with the Petronaki Arena onto your opponent's base as long as they don't have any sentinels, and you can end up doing a ton of damage, which at that point in the game could theoretically straight up beat them. Getting Kylo Ren off the board is a little sticky. He is a leader unit, so it's going to be one of the situations where you can't bounce him, you can't take control of him and defeat him, you can't do any of the things that defeat non-leader units, but he can be powered to the dark side if he's your only unit on the board. He can be just straight up defeated with Rival's Fall. You can damage into him, so on and so forth. But hopefully the idea is that when you flip, you get that major damage packet ready to go to be able to just attack immediately. You're not necessarily always going to have the snapshots in your discard pile. You're not always going to have the constructed lightsabers. That's why we have the backups of the corrupted sabers, the Revan sabers, and the Kylo Ren sabers. So that way there's at least more things you could potentially do. But as you are going to be drawing cards of Pershing, as you're going to be going on through the game, you're going to have access to cards to be able to discard with Kylo's ability, which is going to continue to get you card draw. And hopefully by the end of the game, but when you can flip, you can get all of those sabers onto your character and just absolutely massacre your opponent. Is it going to happen every game? Absolutely not. But the game plan does give you enough defensive tools with your removal pieces, your sentinels, and other units that can attack into your opponent's units to be able to give you the opportunity to end your opponents before they're even really ready to deal with Kylo Ren coming out as this big-bodied leader that is potentially difficult to remove. There are some interesting decisions you can change here up. You can take out Child Son and Grace for Purgle for some of the other things that have better sentinel abilities. You can take out Bazine and Greedo for other things that give you shielded, like Secreted Sage, or into the Crafty Smuggler. You can choose not to use the yellow Petronaki Arena and use the yellow Force base instead to get the extra card draw from Kylo Ren, which you'd want to put more yellow and blue Force payoffs, which would potentially put the Anakin Skywalker in here. There's a lot of different things you could do with this, but at a first glance, your main combo you're worried about is Sabers and Snapshot Reflexes into the discard pile, Marchion Row on 6 to be able to get that double raid going, and then attack on 7 to finish your opponent off. Another play you have access to is the Evacuates. On 6, you can evacuate your opponent's entire board, take the initiative. As long as they don't deploy a Sentinel, you have the ability to attack into whatever your opponent has left on the board if they have their leader out, or if they're able to play another unit before the round flips over. It's an interesting combo. May not necessarily need to be in the deck. Sideboard is more like a maybe board, but it is Ascension Cables, Breaking In, and Shattered Intentions. A lot of yellow players are using Shattered Intentions, and I don't like this at all because you're not worried about having Kylo Ren removed after you do your big attack. You're worried about making sure he has enough power to finish off your opponent. But if you're not worried about that, Shattered Intentions at least gives it a little bit more stickiness to the board. And then Ascension Cable does give you the Saboteur plus 1 power, and I believe that's 3 health. Yeah, 3 health. So could be useful if your opponent has a Sentinel. If you know your opponent has a bunch of Sentinels, you side those Ascension Cables in, and maybe you side out the Corrupted Sabers or some of the unique Sabers to make sure you get that Ascension Cable into your discard pile. I think this is a very interesting deck. Definitely could use some fine-tuning, so go ahead and grab this, use it to your heart's delight, but I really wanted to put the combo in of making sure you have the maximum amount of damage possible on your flip turn at 7 with Kylo Ren, and honestly, don't be afraid to go to 8. If you can't figure out the puzzle on 7, do something else that gives you a little bit of extra power to be able to push that damage through on 8 with your Kylo Ren flip, because then you'll have 8 resources to be able to spend on a bunch of these different things. And maybe the math works out differently if you can get different, better combos with your ability to get those upgrades on with Kylo Ren's flip. Here we have Kylo Green, but actually Sabers. The original name of this deck was Non-Kira Vader, but this is effectively the way you would probably build Kylo Ren Green if you're also looking for that same value up Kylo Ren with Sabers and attack on the next action instead of the same action as he flips. We don't have access to the Snapshot Reflexes. You don't want to pay 3 for that. You could, as kind of a sneak attack type thing that your opponent might not be ready for. I wouldn't recommend it because it does take away from the extra damage you can do with your combos in this deck. But going through the deck, we have 2 copies of Timely Intervention, 3 Pershing, 3 Inferno 4s, 3 Pike Sentinels, 3 Heirloom Lightsabers, 1 Kylo Ren's lightsaber, 2 Phase 3 Dark Troopers, 3 Super Laser Technicians, 3 Supremacy TIE Fighters, 3 Power of the Dark Side, 3 Constructed Lightsabers, 3 Takedown, 2 Rey, 3 No Glory Only Results, 3 Overwhelming Barrage, 2 Craving Power, 2 Anakin Skywalker, 3 Darth Vader, 2 Green Darth Vader, and 1 Supreme Leader Snoke. No sideboard here because this is just a deck that doesn't really, I don't like building sideboards for everything because honestly sideboards don't really do much for me. I know there are good cards that you can side in and out for specific decks, but my experience has been sideboard cards rarely show up when you need them and always show up when you don't need them. Sideboard rant aside, this is not the average green build. It kind of is, but you'll see a lot more legal authorities and other things that don't really increase your power. They just increase your health, hoping that Kylo Ren sticks on the board as a big sentinel that your opponent has to get by. F all that. I want something that gets in there and smacks face. And that's what the build is for. We have the constructed lightsabers in there. We have the Kylo Ren Saber. We do have the Craving Power. It's not a card that I'm super high on because your combo at flip is going to be just Craving Power and the Kylo Ren lightsaber. But it is there in case you need to use Kylo Ren's power to blow something up. And you still do get power and health, turning him into a 7/7 for 5 plus your flip. But it is your traditional blue-green shenanigans. I get to play this deck without feeling bad about playing the overpowered Kira deck, and I still get to do some interesting stuff with it. The Energy Conversion Lab plus Blue Vader is the nastiest combo that you have in this deck. Having the Heirloom Sabers, being able to discard them with Kylo Ren, means that you can absolutely get the Anakin Skywalker ability on. Same thing with Rey, and the fun combo piece here for Rey is you have the ability to attack with her into one of your opponent's units or your opponent's base, and her on attack says you may heal 2 damage from a unit. And then if it is a non-heroism unit, you can give a shield token to it. So potentially you could actually set up Rey to give one of your opponent's non-heroism units a shield token. When you ECL Vader into the whatever unit you have, you can futz the way that you have your shields built and potentially set up a second kill with Vader's on attack ability to be able to defeat something that has a shield token. It's an interesting combo. It does take a little bit of setup, and it does take your opponent not immediately removing Rey, but if they don't do that, your opponent is in trouble. Our traditional control pieces of Power of the Dark Side, Takedown, No Glory, Only Results, and Overwhelming Barrage exist in the deck. New control pieces such as Craving Power and Anakin Skywalker also exist. Anakin being just a flat blue -6/-6, or 2 batches of -3/-3 if you have the 2 different cards in your discard pile, can be very helpful. It's not as fun of a flip deck with Kylo Ren to be able to flip into a huge attack, but it does set up something to the effect of allowing Kylo Ren to flip, getting the constructed lightsaber, and then Kylo Ren, and maybe that's it. You save your other resources for that. It's not as fun for the Kylo Ren upgrades portion, but it still has, you can throw double constructed lightsaber and really mess with what your opponent is able to do with that specific combo, because that's still going to present a 9/11 that has raid 4 that your opponent has to deal with in that moment, and if they can't, that's going to present a lot of damage onto the opponent's base. And again, with these 25, 26, 28 health bases, that brings you much closer to death than what most people are really prepared for. I would love to put one more Snoke into this deck, but it unfortunately doesn't have enough space for that. I really should figure out what to do with these Phase 3 Dark Troopers. I'm not too particularly happy with them, but they have done some work in some games that I have played. But this is Kylo Green. Again, I think the yellow is much more fun in terms of what the combo does. It's also slightly more interactable because your opponent can potentially have more things on the board. But if you don't want to feel dirty by playing Kira, you can play Kylo and play something like this, which still gives you all of the pieces that Kira can do, just without that, convenient, I just wipe out the board on my 5 flip regardless of what you have on the board. So there it is. There you have it. 2 different flavors of Kylo Ren, Kylo Green, Kylo Yellow. It does look like Kylo Green is going to be the more popular deck because it does mesh with that blue-green villainy control style. You don't get to play the game type thing by setting down those sentinels so that your opponent can't attack your base, and then using your control pieces to remove their good units from the board. But I think the more fun style is going to be the Kylo Yellow, because it does give you more things to do with the cards that you have available, and does have that surprise flip turn, 14 to potentially 19 damage if you get the right amount of cards on the board and in your discard pile to do so. This Kylo Ren is very clearly supposed to be a General Grievous. I don't know what specifically happened in the testing and design phase to switch him from Grievous to Kylo Ren, but they clearly saw something that would be better for Kylo Ren than General Grievous, and that's how the cards laid down for what we got. So we can only play with what we have, not with what we want, and this is what we have. I will be bringing one of these decks to the Galactic Championship, which I will be at this weekend. Can you believe it? It's already World Championship time. You can see me there. I'll be grinding side events, trying to get those silver packs, trying to get tickets for fun stuff. I'm definitely not going to be going for sleeves or boxes or mats or anything like that. Got too much of that stuff. I only have so much room of what I can take back with me. I want silver packs for those prize cards that are really cool designs at the Galactic Championship. So if you see me there, say hi. Maybe we could play a game or 2 if we're in Premier Pods together. That's probably what I'm going to stick to. Pricing is just better in those pods. But that's all I have for this week. Hopefully you enjoyed these Kylo Ren decks. If you like either or both of them, let me know in the comments below what your favorite deck is, how you would build Kylo Ren, and what updates you potentially would make to these decks that I have showcased here. Like this video, subscribe to the Star Wars Unlimited channel for all of your Star Wars Unlimited needs. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me. I appreciate each and every one of you. We'll see you in the next one, potentially see you at the Galactic Championship. And I'll see you in the stars.